Hey everybody, how are you doing? This is Kirsten here, and what you're listening to is A Better Way with Kirsten Kimura podcast. If you are listening to it, you're probably on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. So while you're there, it would be so helpful for me if you could leave me a 5-star rating and a review. And if you are watching this on YouTube, then please give this video a thumbs up and share this channel. Also, please help me grow to 1,000 followers on YouTube. That would be really, really awesome. So if you could subscribe to the channel, you also make sure that you are not missing any episodes that I release in the future. What we're going to talk about today is a couple of changes that I'm going to make and some additions that I'm going to make to my work, what I'm doing right now. And I want to start out by saying that these changes or the drive, I guess the inspiration to change has been coming from what I have been going through. Some of the things personally, last year or so, I've been doing a lot of personal development work, and I have been finding out that there's so many amazing tools that have helped me to feel a lot better internally, like mentally and emotionally, actually also physically. And I just want to share these tools with you too. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about the mental health side of things, emotional health, also bringing these topics into this podcast more than I have done. The strength training portion is not going to go anywhere. You know that I'm a big fan of this. This is not going to go anywhere. And of course, if you are interested in nutrition coaching, this is also available. So none of the things is going away. But today I'm just going to tell you what kind of additions can you expect in the future, and where they're coming from, and how they can help you. So what kind of started all this new direction or this idea to change a couple of things is that, like I said, I've been working on myself quite a bit over the course of about last year. And I haven't talked about it a ton, but I have experienced chronic pain as well as periods of anxiety and depression for years. And at times I still do. So they are not like completely gone. And I don't think that anxiety is supposed to like completely go away ever. I think it's okay to have it. Sometimes it's a really good sign that something needs to change. And this was the case for me too. Same thing with depression. It's like such a big thing that it shows you that something's off here and we need to make a change. So it actually makes you think what could be changed. So um, like I said, although my anxiety and depression, they are still there, somewhat, a little bit here and there, they have gotten so much better. So since last summer, I have been working with somebody who I call my mindset coach. And almost a year later, I've gained so much clarity about myself and I feel a lot better. My chronic symptoms are down. My anxiety and depression have significantly improved. So what am I talking about here? What happened then? Well, one of the big things that I realized was that I am somebody called a highly sensitive person. So if you are familiar with this term, you already know what I'm talking about. If not, I'm going to give you a little bit of an overview of what that means and some of the personality traits that come with being highly sensitive. But I had learned about this trait, I guess you could say, or the concept of highly sensitive years ago, but I wasn't sure if this is me. I thought maybe this could be me. I'm not exactly sure. And the book that I read at the time, the examples there were like quite extreme. Like a lot of things didn't kind of feel like it's me. So I was like, yeah, I don't know, kind of, sort of, maybe. But it wasn't until somebody broke it really down for me and explained what are the characteristics, and also that you don't have to have all of these characteristics, but you can still be sensitive. So um, when I learned that from this person, I realized that, okay, this totally describes me, and it started to make sense, right? So what started to make sense for me was that I kind of gained a little bit of clarity of like, why do I sometimes feel so different? Right? Like compared to other people or the rest of the world or the expectations of the world. Um, why do I feel different? Why do I not like enjoy some things that a lot of people enjoy? Why am I not able to work the same way a lot of people work and are very successful? Why do I need a lot more quiet time? Why do I feel like I get stressed so easily. So this was something that was like I was annoyed by it. I was like, what is this? Like, how come I cannot like grind? Like a lot of people like grind and push. What's wrong with me that I'm not able to do this without severely burning out? So what's up with me? Like what's wrong? And so then when I learned about this concept of highly sensitive person, then I realized, oh, okay. So this is what's going on. It's not that there's something wrong about me or I'm like weird. Yeah, it might be different, but it's not necessarily weird or something bad, right? But it explained to me like why I have been feeling the way that I had been feeling, and why in a lot of situations, like I said, I hadn't felt exactly right or like other people, and it had just made me feel like uncomfortable and kind of like creating a little bit of this like low self-worth, or thinking like, okay, I'm different, so therefore, it's normal to think that I'm different and means that I'm worse, right? So that was definitely kind of like my thought pattern. So let me give you a couple of examples. So for example, you maybe know that I do some salsa dancing, and I would sometimes go out to these events, and they're super fun, right? I get to dance, I get to do stuff, but it was so hard for me always like to be in this like room with so many like people and all the music and all the lights and people laughing, having a good time. While it was all fun, every now and then I was like, I have to get outside, like literally get outside, get some fresh air, be by myself for like 5 minutes, and then I can go in and enjoy it again, right? So I needed these kind of breaks, and then it just felt like nobody else did this, or it just felt a little weird. But I've always been this way. Like even with like a smaller group of people, let's say there's just like four of us with close people. Even then, sometimes I just need to go to the bathroom and sit there by myself, right? I was always like, what is this thing? This is so weird. Well, some other things, for example, I have been doing this online business thing for like many, many years now. And I have been in different coaching programs and masterminds, online business masterminds, and all that. And some of them have been very good. I mean, they all have been helpful in one way or another. But sometimes the strategies or the tools or things that we were taught and expected to do in order to, be successful, some of them were absolutely like, to me, it was like, I just cannot do it. It feels like either too much, or it feels like somehow like misaligned with somehow internally, but I couldn't put it into words like what is wrong with me. and and then you see that a lot of other people in the same coaching groups, they are doing so well. They're like, oh yes, I took this action, I did exactly what you guys said, and boom boom boom, off the checklist, I got all the things, and here's my amazing success and all the money and all the stuff, right? And I'm looking at them, I'm like, how do you do all these things? It just feels really draining to me to take these specific steps, to be online so much, to like, it just felt so draining. And but because at the same time, when you see that somebody else is having so much success, you're like, okay, there's got to be something to it. And if they are successful with these steps, then it must be me. There's something wrong about me, that I'm not capable. I'm not gonna have success. Like this, I kind of internalized. So when I learned about this whole thing, like HSP, then a lot of things started to make sense to me. It was like, okay, I'm not weird, I'm not wrong, I'm not broken, I'm not defective. It's just that these things don't work for me, and I have to find ways to live my life better, adjust a couple of things, and then change certain things so that I can feel better. Now, I want to tell you a little bit more about the definition of highly sensitive person. So here are some of the common traits, right? So you can listen to them and see maybe some of them apply to you. And like I said before, to not all of them have to apply to you, but some of them may. And there's one that doesn't really apply to me, but all the other ones in the list do. So I'm going to read them to you. So the first thing is deeper level of processing. So highly sensitive people take in the world more intensely because they have more sensitive nervous system. And this sensitive nervous system, because it is so sensitive, it's working on high gear all the time, or high cylinders all the time. And it's like, everything that you take in, every event, every word occurrence, every emotion, like you just feel it really strongly because your nervous system is so sensitive. And absolutely, I can resonate with that. The second thing is that we are prone to overstimulation, and it's obvious why, because exactly the same thing that I just mentioned, because there's just so much, our nervous systems sense everything more deeply and strongly, so we do get overstimulated. And that's why I always felt like, oh my goodness, I have to get out for a second, or I cannot do this work thing right now, or I need more rest, because it's just when you're so sensitive, it's like amplified, right? It's like everybody else is hearing me the way I talk to you right now, but other sensitives hear it like through like a 10x loudspeaker, right? So that's basically how it is, and it can be with like any sensory thing. It's not just like hearing; it can be like seeing, or feeling, or whatever, taking in a lot of information. So this is where we have to be really careful, so we don't take in a lot of information, especially negative emotion. Why do I always say about news? I'm like, I don't understand why anybody still watches news because it's so stressful. All right, moving on. So the next thing that is very common for highly sensitives is strong emotions. So we may have big emotional reactions, both positive and negative, while some other people who are not that way, they might just like be like, all right, yeah. I don't know what the big deal is about, right? But we feel it like it's a massive deal. The next thing is strong empathy. So we care about others, and sometimes too much, and sometimes too intensely. And sometimes we can, um, one of the traits that comes out of it is like we want to fix everybody's emotions, right? Which again becomes overstimulation, right? Because we want to do just so much and then we get exhausted. The next thing is noticing changes in people very easily. So it could be like, you walk into a room and somebody is in a bad mood or something happened to them, and you can kind of tell, right? And even if they don't say anything, or even if they don't give it away with a body language or facial expressions, you can just tell that, yeah, something's up. And this could come from many places, and especially like if you're highly sensitive to begin with, and you also in your childhood maybe you had a lot of reactiveness in your family, and you kind of learned to watch out for that, right? So that was like a protection thing, like, oh, I have to be aware. If this person is in a bad mood, that's potential danger. So if this happened to you, then this is one of the reasons why you are now, so sensitive to picking up those subtle changes in people's moods. But yes, this is definitely amplified, even if you are, especially if you are highly sensitive, you feel it a lot more. And then the last thing here is noticing beauty uh, in more detail, or yeah, in more detail. So, for example, one of the things could be you walk in nature and you just notice all these cute little like flower petals and the ways that trees are shaped. Or if you go to I don't know, for some people it can be like if you go to like an art gallery or something like that. This is not really like my thing, but if it is for you, you might be like staring at like a piece of art for like forever in like complete amazement, right? It's so funny. Just last weekend we talked about it with some friends, and uh, my friend had a friend in town, and then she was telling about like shelling. So it's basically like you go to like different destinations and you gather those seashells and you can look at them and you can like really observe and like taking the details. And then she said that she really enjoys this thing. And my other friend was like, "Oh, that's totally what Kirsten would do too." So this is exactly like that, right? So you just like you can get a little bit lost in this thing. This is how I feel about my dot art. So if you've seen my Instagram story, sometimes I do dot art, and this is so much fun. Like you can really go into details and look at the picture and create the picture, and it's just really great. So, like I said, not all of these traits may apply to you, but some may, and maybe others apply less or not at all, but you could still be an HSP. So there's about, if I'm not mistaken, about 20% of people who are highly sensitive. And as you see, this is why it makes so much sense that the rest of the world isn't necessarily like that. So that's why it can be a little bit difficult to kind of fit in. And it's easy to start thinking there's something wrong about me, right? But now, this whole HSP thing isn't really about the label, right? It's like discovering this wasn't so that I could now call myself something or put myself into a box, right? And it just allowed me to start learning about myself more and understanding why so many things that others did and that worked for them just didn't work for me. Why I needed so much quiet time, why I got stressed so easily. I also realized, and now this is where it gets, I think, really interesting, is that there are a lot of traits that are very common for highly sensitive people that come out of our sensitivity, sometimes trauma too, sensitivity plus trauma, I think. Um, and these personality traits are very common and unpleasant, and we have to learn to handle them, right? Because otherwise, if we let these traits run our lives, I'm going to give you a couple of examples in a minute, then we're going to feel more exhausted, more burnt out, and more overstimulated. So one of the things that's very common for us is lack of self-trust and sometimes struggle with decision making. So we need to ask everyone's approval before you can like buy a piece of clothing or make that work decision or even like post something on social media, or then we just think about it later, like, was it the right thing to do? And so this comes from this idea that again, we're different. I'm so different. I don't know if I can trust myself. Everybody else seems to be doing things differently. So this is where it really comes from. Another one that is so common is people pleasing, right? This, I don't know, might be number one, maybe perfectionism, but people pleasing is definitely up there with like common things. So let's say that an example would be like uh, you've been wanting to move to another place maybe for a long time, and now this opportunity comes and you're like so excited, but then your parents or somebody else that you live close to, they tell you that they're like so disappointed if you leave. So you don't because you don't want to hurt them. So this is probably maybe like a pretty big example, and you can find like many, many small ones in your everyday if you do it, whether it's like a restaurant decision or, what time to go somewhere, you always like give up. You don't voice your opinion because you just want to do it the way other people want to do it. Then this is just people pleasing. And if you do it too much, oh my goodness, this is so exhausting. So exhausting. What happens? You just inside, you build up all these resentments, right? Maybe it is like, oh, I'm going to clean up after him, even though he could do it, but let me do this. And then because you're people pleasing, right? You don't want to rock the boat. You just like do the stuff. And then you feel internally so resentful. Resentment is actually a category or like a flavor of anger, right? And you become internally angry. And that can cause chronic symptoms for sure. Now, some other things that are common, having no boundaries. So let's say that you have a friend who keeps telling you about her dramatic relationships on and on. You're listening, you're trying to help, but nothing ever changes. She still comes back with the same stories over and over again. You just feel like I'm so drained, but you cannot set a boundary. You cannot say, this doesn't work for me. Like I've tried to help you, but nothing's changing. Please let's not have these conversations anymore. So just can't set this boundary, right? It's so difficult because again, people pleasing, feel like our self-worth isn't really high. Who am I to say that stuff? So this can be pretty common. Another thing is overthinking. Let's say that you go out to party, then afterwards you overanalyze every conversation that you had, everything that you said. You're wondering if you should have done it differently, if you should have dressed differently. You can really think about it a lot. Um, a hard time handling conflict. This is very common, and probably for me personally, it was like the one of the highest one on the list of what I did and what I wanted to improve, and I have improved so much. But it used to be always like, you know, uh, no matter what happens, as long as there's no conflict, right? It was like so scary. And again, this is again picked up from childhood, very likely, but it is scarier. Like if you are more sensitive, it just literally feels like an actual danger or threat. Like a argument about like a little thing can cause like make you feel like this is real dangers. Um, I'm I don't know, I might get rejected or abandoned. What if somebody's going to leave me? So that type of stuff is definitely contributing if you have experienced something like that. Then another one, there's like so many things, but I'm just gonna like tell you a few more. Not expressing your wants and needs, super common because again, we just feel like maybe my thoughts are not as valuable, maybe my needs are not so valuable, so we don't express them. So one example would be like, let's say that you're starting, you're tired, but you're gonna cook some dinner, but you feel like, okay, I could really like lie down for a little bit before I start my dinner. Then you realize that some ingredients are missing, right? And you're like, oh, I could ask my husband to go to the store, but no, I don't want to say anything. So let me just go do it myself. Although you could have asked, it would have been totally fine, but you just don't want to express your wants and needs because you don't want to bother anybody, right? And then you suppress, and that's actually will start causing troubles with your physical health as well. So lots of things like that. Perfectionism is definitely one of the big ones too. Like this is where I don't personally feel like this is like a very common for me, but I know it is for a lot of people. Um, and this can also cause you to always like push yourself to the max. Push, 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 never being satisfied with what you have done, always telling yourself that you need to do better, you need to do more, and spreading yourself super thin because everything has to be perfect. And if it's not, then you're so hard on yourself. And then the self-criticism starts and you never give yourself a break. So there's so many things here. Feeling guilty for no apparent reason is one of them. So there's like lots of things that are kind of coming out of may show up for you if you are a more highly sensitive person. So this is something that I have discovered about myself, and like I said, in the last year or so, I've made a lot of progress healing a lot of these things, or at least getting a lot better. And one thing that I want to touch on in today's episode also is chronic symptoms. So a lot of times, highly sensitive people are more prone to developing chronic symptoms. And all the things that I just mentioned, the people pleasing, perfectionism, inability to express your own needs, putting yourself last, excessive guilt. I know it might be hard to believe, but these things actually start causing actual physical sensations in your body. So for me, it was years of back pain. And to be honest, still have some. If you listen to the episode with Amanda, for her, it was 13 years of chronic fatigue. And there's so many examples. Like some people have had like burning mouth syndrome, chronic fatigue, uh, or the digestive issues, stomach problems, burning, tingling, numbness, dizziness, double vision. There's like so many things that can actually come as a result of just heightened nervous system and not knowing how to handle life situations, not knowing how to handle these things that I just told you about, how to learn to be more assertive. We have to learn how to be more assertive. We have to learn how to work with our strengths and weaknesses, right? We have to become more aligned with ourselves. You cannot like push yourself into a box that doesn't fit for you. You have to get better at recognizing your emotions and expressing them. So these are all the tools that will actually help you to eventually get rid of these chronic symptoms. But it's such a hard thing for a lot of people to believe. Again, I really recommend that you go back and watch the interview that I did with Amanda. I'm going to put the link in the show notes too, and in the YouTube description as well. But a lot of times people just they keep going from doctor to doctor, like, oh, I still have this like digestive problem, and I still have this back pain, even though I've seen all the chiropractors and physical therapists and got all the MRIs, and nobody can see like what's really going on. A lot of times these issues don't have like a physical, like an MRI image, right? That will be like, okay, this is it. A lot of some doctors are not able to figure out what the heck is wrong with you, or one doctor after another keeps coming up with different diagnoses, right, and giving you their diagnosis and being so sure that their approach will help, but you've already been to 12 of them, nothing has helped. And now when you put this together, you have these physical symptoms, and then you have these personality traits, and you are very sensitive. You have all these things, like you process things deeply, you get more stress, you get overwhelmed, all that stuff. There's a really, really good chance that this is what's going on. These are the things that are causing this for you. And this is called TMS, tension myositis syndrome. So this is a term by Dr. John Sarno. So he was the first doctor to really started exploring this phenomenon where people were coming to him and having all these physical issues, and he would do all the tests and treatments and surgeries, and people wouldn't get better. And then he started realizing that okay, what was actually contributing to these problems was perfectionism and what he called goodism. If you're like a super good girl all the time, or a guy if you're a male, then like pushing yourself super hard, not giving yourself a break. So all these traits contributed to these physical symptoms. So this is what he figured out. And of course, now there's so much more information out there about this. But I just want to, mention this because these are exactly the same things that I dealt with. The HSP traits, typical HSP traits, which again, I want to emphasize that they're no bad or wrong or don't make you defective, but just have to learn how to, in a way, like get stronger without like ignoring yourself, right? And then how you can actually heal your physical symptoms through that. So one more thing, and this is a really, really important thing, is that strength training, right? So strength training is something that I find like a lot of people who are HSPs or have TMS or any sort of exercise for them can be so overwhelming. But what I have found and experienced, because like I said, I've had this thing for years, is that strength training is really something that actually gets you through this or like makes you more empowered, makes you stronger, and helps you believe in yourself. So again, I'm referring back to Amanda's video all the time, but she said the same thing. She had 13 years of chronic fatigue. She got through this eventually, right? At first, she saw a lot of doctors and did a lot of treatments, none of which helped. But then it wasn't until she found the TMS community that she started to feel better. And eventually, it was really the strength training when she started working with me, when she realized that, like this was the missing piece. This really made the final difference that kind of put the end to it, right? And this is a perfect example of how you need this. Like people like this need people who are highly sensitive and who have TMS, they actually need strength training. And I think really it is about that strength training particularly. Yes, you can go outside and take walks, this is nice too, but because of the nature of strength training, like you are getting yourself really outside of your comfort zone, you're pushing something, you're pressing your weight overhead, that this really translates so directly to your life outside of the gym or wherever you work now. It does translate, and it also sends your nervous system and brain a message that I am strong, I am confident, I am empowered, I got this. So this is very different from this like, oh, I'm so afraid, oh, I'm not gonna go out, oh, I'm gonna hide behind the label of HSP, I'm gonna I can't do anything because I have TMS. I understand that these conditions can be very difficult, but still it's up to you. You can show your brain and your nervous system the power that you can do hard things. Now, of course, there are like various degrees. Like if you are really in a lot of pain or like in the middle of like really bad panic attack, then I'm not saying that you should be going to the gym and like push like high barbells over your head or heavy barbells over your head. So we're not talking about like extreme instances like this, but in general, like little by little, if you start incorporating strength training into your routine, you're going to be like mind blown by what happens. Because like I said, the effect that it has on the way you act, the way you feel, actually, this is the most important thing, the way you feel about yourself. And the whole key word here really is empowerment. So where am I getting with this today's episode? So what I'm going to do more of in the future is that I'm going to definitely explore more the topic of highly sensitive person and TMS2, and combining them with strength training. So the strength training piece is not going to go anywhere. It's actually going to be very present here in the future as well. But you can definitely expect a little bit more about the topic of highly sensitive people and sensitivities and the personality traits that I talked about as well. So this is what you can see more of in the future here on my YouTube channel and in my podcast, as well as in my emails. And the very first step, like what I'm gonna do actually this Sunday, which is in just a few days, I'm going to start a new 14-day challenge, or actually it's like a mini program, mini course that is designed for people who are highly sensitives and or have TMS and also want to strength train, or maybe if they are already strength training, then continue it, but it has two sides. So this program has two sides. One of them is the mindset tools, right? How can we thrive as highly sensitive people? How can we still strength train even if we have TMS, right? So the mindset side, we're going to talk about the people pleasing. We're going to talk about the excessive guilt, how to work with these things, how you can do it. We're definitely going to talk about emotions in this program because this one, believe me, is a big one and it's often missed or misunderstood. The importance of people don't understand how important it really is to express their emotions. And I understand why, because if you are maybe more sensitive, maybe you've been told that you're just like too emotional or something like that. And that can lead you to like start hiding your emotions or being ashamed for them. So, but emotions have to be released from the body in order for you to feel well. Because if you don't, again, it's from personal experience, they start causing the chronic issues in the body. So we're talking about that. Like I said, emotions, people pleasing, guilt, conflict. So this is going to be the mindset part of this course. And then the workout part is going to be the right strength training mindset, like how you can make your training experience like empowering, right? So you feel strong and empowered in what you're doing. And also I'm going to give you workouts to try. And I also kept in mind that there will be people here listening who are new to strength training. So let's say that you have experienced, some of these symptoms for a while and you've been kind of scared to strength train. Then I will help you out and I will give you some beginner workouts. So there are two options. There are beginner workouts that will be done with body weight only. You don't need any equipment. And then there will be more intermediate level workouts, which will be done with dumbbells. So you don't need barbells, you don't need anything else. You either need body weight if you want to do the easier version of the program, or dumbbells if you want to do the hard version of the program. And it is definitely doable for new people too. So if you had maybe like a longer break, maybe like I don't even know where to start, then you can definitely do this program as well. So I hope that you join. Maybe you find this mindset part a little bit more useful. Maybe you find the workout part more useful. But I hope that you will give it check it out and do it. It is completely free. Costs nothing, and it starts on Sunday, April 28th. So there's a couple of days to sign up for it. And I hope that you also can give me some feedback at the end of it. Let me know how you liked it, or if you have any feedback about this episode, then also would like to hear that. Like I said, in the future, you're going to hear definitely more about being health sensitive and stress and how to combine that with strength training to get stronger. So all this is coming, and this is all. So thank you so much for being here with me today, listening to this little different episode. And I hope to see you in the program. You can find the link in the show notes and in the YouTube description. All right, that's all for today, and I'll see you soon.